Yes, it's time for another fermenting video. Why? Because it's fun and the results are fun to drink. After the success I had with making my Concord wine from grocery store grape juice, I decided to try making a white wine for my wife, who, like me, loves reds, but unlike me, tends to get migraines from them. So I headed back to Aldi and picked up a couple half-gallon bottles of their white grape juice, which, as it turns out, is made from Niagara grapes. As I grew up only about a half hour from Niagara Falls and still live in the region, I'm very familiar with Niagara grapes. I've done extensive research on the wine made from them. Like Concord, every Niagara wine I've had has been a sweet wine, and I think that contributes to what even the wineries call the grapey flavor they have. However, I set out to make a dry Niagara. The juice right out of the bottle had an initial gravity of 1.071. So by not adding any additional sugar, I was confident that I'd get a dry wine. I poured half the juice into a gallon bottle, pitched a teaspoon of Fleischmann's instant dry yeast, shook the juice and yeast thoroughly to oxygenate the juice and hydrate the yeast, then added the second half gallon of juice, shook it again to mix it, then added an airlock, and I was done. 2 ingredients and just a few minutes of work. Time to let the yeasty beasties do their thing. I racked the wine 24 days later after the fermentation stopped and the yeast had settled to the bottom. I didn't video the racking, but if you want to see how it's done, you can check out one of my other fermentation videos. I know the fermentation was complete because I took another hydrometer reading and it was 0.998, so there was no residual sugar. The wine was completely dry and there was nothing left for the yeast to eat. I calculated the alcohol by volume to be 9.7 to 9.8%. After racking the wine into a new clean gallon jug, I added 2 ounces of French oak chips to the wine for the conditioning phase and let it sit undisturbed for another 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, you can see that the wine was nice and clear, the oak chips had settled to the bottom and given the wine a nice rich amber color. Bottling wine is very much the same process as racking. You siphon the wine off the sediment at the bottom of the bottle it was conditioned in and into your wine bottles. In this case, clean, sanitized, used screw-top wine bottles. When bottling, I use a bottling wand on the end of the siphon, which has a valve on its end to stop the flow when you aren't pressing against the bottom of the wine bottle. Getting this going is a little tricky when working alone, but I managed to fill almost 5 bottles without spilling too much. Half the fun of making your own wine is designing the labels. I print mine out on a color laser printer, cut them out, spray the backs with adhesive, and stick them to the bottles. Aside from being fun, the label lets me keep track of when I made the wine, as I am trying to hold a bottle for each at least 6 months aging to see how they fare. So in the end, this dry Niagara was so good that I bought 4 more bottles of juice and a 2-gallon fermenting bucket, and we'll be starting another batch any day now. I'm also left wondering why none of the wineries make a dry Niagara. And I made that suggestion to one of my favorite vineyards, Bully Hill, this past week, so let's see if they take up the challenge.